From shadowy imagery setting the stage for the mother of all heel turns, to witty one-liners meaning much more in the grand scheme of things, these anything but throwaway Star Wars happenings are about to leave your Gungan tongue dangling off the floor. Gareth here from What Culture Star Wars, and here are 10 moments of Star Wars foreshadowing you never noticed. Number 10, a final goodbye shows flickers of light and darkness. The fall of Anakin Skywalker into the menacing cyborg that is Darth Vader acted as the foundation of the entire prequel series, but you knew that already. As such, a great many nods and teases towards his inevitably tragic fate were always destined to be laced into the trilogy, with the debuting of characters like General Grievous acting as clear tips of the cap to Skywalker's robotic future. Yet a moment of foreshadowing that was given a bit less spotlight, in a figurative sense at least, went down during a seemingly throwaway exchange between Master and Apprentice partway through the third episode. In what would actually turn out to be the last conversation the pair would share before Anakin's decision to fully turn his back on the Order, the decision was clearly made to have him be cloaked in shadow, while the future Ben can be seen basking in the daylight, giving us another visual hint at the difference in path the two were set to walk in the time that would follow. Number 9, floating Leia hints at the Supremacy's end. Quite easily sitting as one of the most divisive Star Wars happenings ever to go down inside of a movie theater, General Leia Organa's floating through space en route back to her Resistance ship actually provided fans with a rather subtle wink at what The Last Jedi's climax would entail. See, it was so much more than a one-time princess doing a best Mary Poppins impression.
That's not how the Force works.
As Leia makes her way back to her spacecraft on the back of being blasted into the darkness of space by the enemy, eagle-eyed fans would have spotted the iconic character cutting straight through a hologram of First Order super ship, the Supremacy. This return to an oxygenated space actually signaled what would be on the horizon for said terrifying ship, with Vice Admiral Holdo eventually sacrificing herself by driving the Resistance's vehicle directly through the heart of the Supremacy, in a visually compelling dealing of a fatal blow to the First Order. Number 8, a theme warns us about the clones' eventual turn. George Lucas very much went out of his way to remind us that while initially being utilized for the forces of good, the white armor-wearing clones were always predestined to drive a knife into the back of the Jedi Order. This time using the medium of music to get over their villainous future, the instantly iconic notes rumbled into the scene, first revealing the early version of the eventually infamous Stormtrooper suit, harkened back to another unsettling reveal one film earlier. As the droid army of the Trade Federation invade the peaceful Naboo, the exact same march can be heard thudding away in the background. The fact the very same tune was then intertwined into this all-important clone reveal on Kamino subtly provoked the audience into feeling as though a dark fate was very much on the horizon where these Jango Fett copies were concerned. Number 7, a silhouette is worth more than 1,000 words. Silhouettes and shadows became something of a hallmark of George Lucas's prequel trilogy when all was said and done, first using them as a way to tease what lay ahead for a young Anakin Skywalker in the promotional material for The Phantom Menace by having a Darth Vader figure bleed onto a Tatooine house behind little Annie. Lucas also relied upon shadows to tell blink and you'll miss them story beats. Looking at you, Jango Fett head tumbling out of his helmet post-decapitation. Lovely stuff. In that very same prequel feature though, lay another overlooked setting of the stage for the future. Coming during Skywalker's trip back home to save his mama in Attack of the Clones, the shadows that trickle from himself and eventual lover Padme Amidala hint at the devastating direction their lives are about to head down. Lighting the moment to perfection or simply altering it in post-production, I'll let you decide. The conflicted Jedi shadow eerily mirrors that of the frightening Sith Lord he will ultimately become, with his scooting around on a speed bike in the same flick also giving us another Vader-esque visual to chew on. Number 6, Anakin's fatal Dooku choice mirrors Luke's. Keeping with that impressionable Skywalker now, and to a beat that would cheekily call back to one of the original trilogy's defining moments, whilst also technically acting as a piece of clever foreshadowing too. The advantages of telling your story back to front, eh? Tasked with rescuing Supreme Chancellor Palpatine from the Separatists in Revenge of the Sith's opening sequence, Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi are gifted a rematch with Count Dooku aboard an enemy vessel. With a captive Palpatine watching on, Kenobi is sidelined early, leaving only the future Darth Vader to contend with another fallen Jedi. Brilliantly lining up with another all-important duel featuring the Chosen One, only this time opposite his own damn son in Return of the Jedi, a seated Darth Sidious enjoys witnessing Anakin's inner turmoil before he finally forces him to give in to anger and dispatch Dooku. In other words, to do it. Yet while Skywalker Sr. opts to lash out, Luke notably passes up the opportunity to strike his own father down in that original trilogy closer, highlighting the vital differences between the two generations of Skywalker. Number 5. R2-D2's trust issues. In another instance of being able to add further glorious detail into seemingly insignificant occurrences that go down in the much-adored original trilogy, George Lucas's prequels may have actually provided us with the answer as to why a certain little droid felt the need to be so damn defiant. While admittedly making him one of the most adored rascals in the galaxy, R2-D2's penchant for disobeying orders, specifically giving a robotic middle finger to the idea of staying with the ship, was largely overlooked in those earlier entries. However, by the time Revenge of the Sith came around in 2005, a seriously heartbreaking revelation equipped fans with a possible reason for his apparent trust issues. As it goes, the last time R2 obeyed a command of this ilk came minutes before Anakin Skywalker wandered into a mining facility on Mustafar, and the rest is agonizing history. So the fact Skywalker never returned to the droid's side and ultimately sealed his unsettling fate upon leaving R2 with the ship likely played into the iconic astromech never wanting to stray too far away from his current master's side ever again. Number 4. Darth Vader notes Luke's fondness of the high ground. Still alluding to the fact that his decision to take the high ground is being celebrated to this day, Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan Kenobi uttered a now legendary line that was actually surprisingly set up a solid 2 decades earlier. As Vader puts it when Luke is safely out of reach up high in the midst of their climactic Return of the Jedi duel, "Obi-Wan has taught you well." In other words, he taught you that my greatest weakness is attempting to flip over my opponent before getting my limbs sliced to pieces, the clever old space wizard. Not being in a rush to repeat that fateful Revenge of the Sith mistake though, Vader resists the urge to do a flip and instead settles for simply having his hand chopped off once again. Charming. Number 3, There's Always a Bigger Fish is more than a cool one-liner. Providing a great many important soundbites over the course of his all-too-brief live-action stint as part of the Skywalker saga, Qui-Gon Jinn's introducing of midichlorians and wish to see Anakin Skywalker trained by his Padawan Obi-Wan are just a few of the hugely significant words uttered by the opinionated Jedi Master. Yet arguably his most underappreciated line of dialogue over the course of The Phantom Menace undoubtedly comes in the form of a witty one-liner that initially feels like little more than a way to alleviate the underwater tension. In the midst of a perilous submerged game of cat and mouse, Qui-Gon hilariously quips, "There's always a bigger fish." While definitely true for their specific situation, the same line of thinking can very much be applied to the overall Jedi-Sith war that is once again on the verge of erupting at the time of the flick. From Anakin seemingly being the chosen one before his son appears to take up the mantle and so on, to Darth Maul merely acting as the first of many increasingly difficult dark side hurdles our heroes will be forced to leap over throughout the coming trilogies. There is, indeed, always a bigger fish. Number 2, Anakin Skywalker's words come back to haunt the Jedi. Discovering the future biggest bad in the galaxy in much more innocent surroundings, a naive piece of dialogue sent the direction of Qui-Gon Jinn by a young Anakin Skywalker could just be the most disturbing piece of foreshadowing the series has ever known. As Annie puts it upon figuring out that the mysterious presence before him is none other than a Jedi Knight, no one can kill a Jedi! Unfortunately for the Jedi Master in question, that most definitely would not turn out to be the case by the end of that very same first episode. But the much more sickening events that would go down 2 films on from this sweet supper add even more dramatic and tragic weight to the lad's ignorant Phantom Menace claim. Sure enough, Anakin would prove that you very much can kill a Jedi, absolutely massacring the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, including a group of younglings not much older than he was around the time he first alluded to a Jedi's invincibility. Kids say the craziest things, am I right? Number 1, the clone's direction suggests a dark future. As seen in everything from Avengers Endgame's long-awaited assembling of Earth's mightiest heroes, to the Lord of the Rings' many charges into battle, it's pretty much an unwritten law of filmmaking that your heroes must sprint against the enemy from the left of the screen to the right. And that's precisely what made George Lucas's first unleashing of his titular army on the Separatists in Episode 2 Attack of the Clones such an ingenious turn of events. Instead of having his apparent hero infantry arriving to bail out the Jedi during their climactic skirmish on Geonosis, storm to the rescue using that aforementioned means of travel, the mind behind the galaxy opted to have his clones wander on in the opposite direction. Right there and then, fans were given yet another tease of what was undoubtedly set to come, as, along with the aforementioned Trade Federation march being used to signal their debut, Lucas's endgame of having the army forged on Kamino play a painful part in the Republic's downfall was already being brought into existence under our very noses via direction of attack. And that's our list of any of the moments of Star Wars foreshadowing people never noticed. Feel free to let us know all about them in the comment section right down below, and do not forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button while you're there too. Also, if this sort of stuff gets you going, then head on over to whatculture.com and find some incredible articles just like the one this video you're watching right now is based on, and I would know because I did the tapping for it. I've been Gareth from What Culture Star Wars. May the Force be with you. Thank you very much for watching this video today, and I'm sure I'll see you very, very soon. Bye-bye.